righteousness is still holiness. So here you go. There's one way that leads to hell. Well, then what's the reciprocal, Davis? I'm glad you asked. There is a reciprocal. If the one way leads you to hell, there must be another way that's going to lead you to the kingdom. Let me help you out. See, you have to walk, stand, and sit to get you to hell. Well, the reciprocal is the exact opposite. You've got to sit, stand, and walk to get into the kingdom. Boy, I'm about to shout by myself. The first thing we got to get folks to do is to sit down long enough to hear the good news of Jesus Christ. That's the good news. It's not in anything else, but let them sit down long enough to hear the story of a man that loves them better than anyone else. See, here's what you got to understand. That to preach the gospel, to present Jesus Christ, sometimes you got to buy lunch. I don't mind treating you to lunch and dinner at Outback and hear all your problems as long as you let me tell you one story. Oh, y'all gonna stay here with me? I'll hear about all your issues, all your situations. But before we leave there, I gotta tell you about Jesus, the man that walked on the water. I gotta tell you about Jesus, the man that hung on the cross. I just believe if you sit there long enough and let me tell you my story. But once they sit and they hear the story, then the Holy Ghost will make them stand with Jesus. Y'all do remember that you did not go from your sinner state to your saintly state overnight. The first thing you did was sit down long enough to hear about salvation. And the second thing you did was stood up and says, Lord, save me. Is there any good new people up in here that realize that you know? When I stood up and said, Lord, here am I, send me, that made all the difference. And so I stand with him. I stand with Jesus. Listen, I may not know everything about him. I just stand with him because I realized he stood with me when I didn't even know it. Oh, y'all don't play with me. He stood by me while I was walking through the valley of the shadow of death. I just didn't know it. He stood by me when my enemies were camped all around me. I just didn't know it. When I look back over my life now that I'm saved, I realize the Lord has stood by me through some tough times. The reason why I didn't lose my mind is because he stood by me. I'm not talking about while I was saved, sanctified, and filled with the Holy Ghost. Are there any real people that realize your sin life was so messed up that you should have lost your mind? You should have been crazy for Cocoa Puffs, but the Lord stood with you all the way when I tried to kill myself. He stood with me. When my life was riotous, he stood with. Can I mess you up a little bit? The reason why you ain't dead is because the Lord was standing with you. You know how many times there was assassins out on your life, but every time they tried to kill you, they saw the Lord standing with you and had to back up off of you. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not. He stood by me. There were some times I sure enough saw the enemy, and I didn't know why the enemy ran away. But now I know that the enemy is afraid of grace and mercy. And whenever he saw grace on one side and mercy on the other side, he saw Jesus in front of me, the Holy Ghost behind me, and the Father over me. They stood by me. And see, if I sit and I hear the good news and I stand to be saved, the last thing I got to do is walk. I got to walk it out. Y'all know how it is. To the right, to the right, to the left, to the left. Now kick, now kick. Now walk it by yourself. Now walk it by yourself. Y'all don't want to go with me? You know the Cupid Shuffle. I done seen y'all at the club. I done seen y'all at the reception. You know the Cupid Cup Shuffle better than the world knows it. But let me help you out. The Cupid Shuffle didn't start in the world. It started in the Bible. Because once I sat and got the good news and stood to be saved, the Lord pushed me and told me now, walk in front of me. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. You cannot sit on this word. You cannot stay planted on this word, but you got to walk on this word. You got to walk it out in front of the world and let the world know the Lord saved me and I'm free because the Lord set me free. You got to walk it out so the world knows I was sick, but now I'm healed. You got to walk it out to let the world know I got my mind, I got my body, I got joy, I got